And today we've got something really quite special. It's the life story of Nora Kay, drawn from excerpts of her memoir, The Stories of My Life.
Yeah, this looks fascinating. Our sources give us this really personal view into her life, right? Answering specific questions about her journey, her family, what she went through.
Exactly. It's like she's walking us through her own memories and reflections.
And it's clear this isn't just one simple narrative. It's really complex, woven across different cultures, continents. You see so much resilience, change.
And those unexpected turns life takes. What really struck me, and we'll get into this, is how parts of her journey seem to echo her own father's life. It's quite profound.
So our mission here is to really dig into the key moments from these stories, the insights, basically understand Nora's remarkable life and maybe see what we can learn from it ourselves.
Okay, let's jump in. Where do we start? The beginning, I suppose.
Right. She was born in Rangoon, that's Yangon now, but actually grew up mostly in Incheon, a town maybe 10 miles out. So right away, you get this mix of city and town influence, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Her parents were Teng Hai Huth, her father, and Lim Mayakin, her mother. Now, her father was an accountant in Rangoon.
Okay.
But what's interesting is how he used that skill. He wasn't just crunching numbers separately. He was apparently really focused on market conditions to help his wife buy goods for their dry goods store back in Incheon.
Oh, wow. That tells you something right there, doesn't it? How families kind of weave things together using whatever skills they have for the main family business.
Absolutely. And her mother ran that store near the Hlang River. It sounds like it was really the heart of their world back then.
It does. She describes it a wooden building, zinc roof. You could see the river from upstairs.
And the store itself.
Yeah.
Wow. It stocked everything. I mean, not just basic rice and salt, but cosmetics, medicine, even tools for farmers, boatmen.
Sounds like more than just a shop, like a community hub.
Exactly. Serving people from across the river. She even mentions it sometimes acted a bit like a pawn shop, helping people out with cash or goods for jewelry.
And life in Burma then, the early 50s, she says it was pretty peaceful. Necessities were easy to come by.
Yeah, abundant. And they even had foreign stuff in the store, coffee, condensed milk, Quaker oats.
Huh.
But interestingly, she notes they still preferred the local street food. So something about their connection to the local culture, maybe.
Definitely. It paints this picture of a life comfortable but really rooted in the community. She talks so warmly about her mother's kindness, too.
Oh, yeah. Always helping sick neighbors, even late at night, knowing when to say, okay, time for the hospital. Her mother's death in 1956 at only 43. That was clearly a huge blow, not just for the family, but the whole community mourned her.
Yeah, you can feel that loss. And her father sounds like, well, a very different kind of presence, more outgoing, social.
Very much so. Generous. His Burmese friends called him Pak Fog Yi, compatriot. He was really involved in the Chinese community, especially the Chinese school in Incheon.
Yeah.
Poured a ton of energy into it.
It was the principal, right? And worked to improve it.
He really did. Turned it from a wooden house into a proper brick building, got more teachers, and his focus on education at home sounds, well, intense.
Testing the kids with math problems.
Yep. Calculating oil in a bucket, soy sauce ratios. Education wasn't just school. It was like part of daily life.
Okay. And here's where you mention that parallel. His own story.
Right. Her father was born in China in a village called Wuzai Chun. He left home at 25 to go to Burma.
And then Nora?
At 25 herself, she leaves Burma for the United States. That same age, that same leap into a new land. It's striking, isn't it?
It really is. It sets up this almost cyclical theme running through the family, migration, seeking something new.
Yeah. She also mentions her siblings, younger brothers Jeffrey, Thomas, Raymond. Jeffrey sounds quiet, well-liked. Thomas, a bit mischievous. Raymond also went to boarding school later. And her older sister, Lena, sounds like she had a strong personality, but also stepped up to help run things after their mother died.
And despite this, relatively comfortable life, not many toys.
No, not really. She remembers some tiny clay cups, but mostly it was imagination. Sticks, rocks, wood. Anything could be a toy.
Makes sense for the time. Kids weren't inside on screens.
Exactly. They were outdoors, running in rice paddies, climbing sand hills, playing simple games, seed games, bat and ball. It sounds very active, very free before things started to change.
Okay, let's shift to her education then. Started at that Chinese school her father ran.
Right, in Incheon. But then a big shift. St. Emily's Convent Boarding School.
And this was her father's idea. Thinking ahead.
Seems so. He saw English education becoming crucial, especially with the political situation changing. And this school taught Chinese, English, and Burmese. Plus, practically after his wife died and the store closed, it was a way to manage care for the kids.
Makes sense. But boarding school life sounds intense.
Oh, yeah. Super structured, rigid schedule, uniforms, cleaning duties run by a nun called Mother Dorothy, who sounds quite strict. Nora actually described it feeling like a prison.
Wow, prison. That's strong. Did she find any bright spots in that environment?
Well, despite the strictness, Sundays were better, more freedom, time in the garden, and once a month, movies in the boys' hall.
Ah.
That was her first taste of Western films. Robin Hood, Ivanhoe. Kind of sparked her curiosity about the outside world.
I can imagine.
There was also some drama, a fire in her dressing room. They had to evacuate, stayed in another convent for a bit.
Okay. But she didn't stay there through high school.
No, she left after 3 years, around 7th grade.
Okay.
That was directly because of the family situation changing again. Mother gone, store closed. They moved to Rangoon.
Got it. And that led her to Huazan Chinese School in Rangoon.
Right. A school with a strong academic reputation, but another big shift from the convent's religious focus to a place where Communist Party ideals were being promoted.
Interesting contrast.
Definitely. Still studied Chinese, English, Burmese. They had activities like fun fairs, banquets, and she passed her matriculation exam in '64.
But this is also when the political situation really starts to intrude, isn't it? The 1962 coup, the Burmese way to socialism.
Exactly, and that started bringing in discriminatory policies, especially towards ethnic groups like the Chinese community.
And you see the direct impact on her plans.
Immediately. Because she had foreign citizenship, she couldn't apply for things like medicine or engineering at university.
So her choices were limited.
Yeah. She was assigned chemistry in the arts and science program. Forces outside her control were already shaping her path.
She calls her college years uneventful and modest, factory visits and internship. It feels like the politics were casting a shadow.
It certainly seems that way. Limiting options, creating uncertainty. And it got worse. The anti-Chinese feelings actually boiled over into riots. Life became unsafe.
She describes some terrifying moments, right, like hiding.
Yeah, hiding in her own house when mobs came down the street demanding lights be turned on, ready to attack Chinese homes that didn't comply. They had to quickly hide photos showing Chinese schools or organizations. It sounds absolutely chilling.
Just imagining that, yeah.
Yeah.
And this escalating danger is what pushed her to think about leaving.
It was a major factor. She found out about these U.S. second preference visas for college grads or skilled workers. She and some friends decided to apply.
But you needed a sponsor in the U.S., right? That was a hurdle.
Correct. And this is where things take a really unexpected turn. A matchmaker introduced her to Ken. He was also trying to immigrate.
An arranged marriage proposal.
Yeah. She's very honest about it being an agonizing decision. She had serious reservations.
I bet.
But her father really didn't want her to be alone in a new country. His wishes weighed heavily on her.
That's such a complex mix of factors: survival, opportunity, family duty, personal feelings.
Absolutely. She married Ken in May 1970. That changed her visa status, made the journey possible, but then his visa got delayed because of political unrest in Burma.
Oh, okay. So he left first.
He left in December 1970. She had to wait another year, finally leaving on January 19, 1972.
Leaving must have been incredibly difficult. Saying goodbye at the airport.
She describes it vividly, the family, the friends, the uncertainty of ever seeing them again. And then suddenly she's on her first huge trip, stepping into a completely different world.
What was that like? The arrival.
A total whirlwind.
Uh-huh.
Warnings about con artists in Hong Kong, tasting Coca-Cola for the first time ever on the plane.
Ha! First Coke.
Yeah. Then the intense heat in Honolulu, landing in L.A. feeling kind of deaf from the flight pressure, visiting Burmese friends there, and then arriving in Chicago, middle of winter, seeing snow for the first time.
Talk about sensory overload. From Burma to Chicago, winter and snow. Wow.
And then the job hunt began. Yeah, in that cold Chicago winter of '72. And it was tough, really tough. 2 months filling out applications, interviews, but nothing. No calls back.
And she felt responsible for eventually sponsoring her family too, right? That must have added pressure.
Immense pressure. She felt desperate. She actually realized that maybe employers saw her chemistry degree as making her overqualified for some technician jobs she was going for.
Ah, interesting. So she changed tactics.
She did. She decided to take some tests specifically for technician roles, showing that practical adaptability again.
And did that work?
It did. She got her first job, a temporary one, at Commercial Assurance Company. But her real goal was still to get into her scientific field.
Right.
And about a year after arriving, she landed a job as a laboratory technician with the state of Illinois EPA.
Okay, that's a big step back in her field.
Yeah. She was later promoted to chemist, working with sophisticated equipment. Then she moved to a job at Interlake Steel Industry. She mentions a kind supervisor there who let her adjust her hours sometimes.
Nice. But then the move started, dictated by Ken's job.
Exactly. Another phase of adapting. First big move was Chicago to Augusta, Georgia in 1989.
And finding work there was hard.
Yeah, she describes Augusta as conservative. Fewer opportunities in her specific field. She actually took some time off work. Eventually found a job at Aiken Regional Hospital, which gave her some flexibility.
Flexibility was important, maybe for family.
Seems likely, and maybe travel too. Then the move to California in 2003 was specifically family-driven. Her son Kelvin was doing his residency in Irvine.
Oh, okay. But California had its own hurdles, right? Licensing.
Yep. She had to take a lab tech position first because California has specific license rules for clinical lab scientists. So she had to study and pass their state exam.
Another challenge meant she really persisted in her career.
Definitely. After passing the exam, she moved with Kelvin up to Northern California when he got a job there, and she got a clinical lab scientist position at Kaiser Permanente in Walnut Creek.
Okay.
Kelvin later moved to Portland, but she stayed put for a bit in Concord. Then Ken moved to Brentwood, and that's where she eventually retired from Kaiser in November 2011.
So that's quite a journey just within the U.S. Chicago, Orland Park, Augusta, Westminster, Concord, Brentwood, each place a different chapter.
Absolutely. And a huge part of that American life was, of course, raising her children. 4 of them: Kendra, Kelvin, Kendrick, and Kenny.
She shares some nice details about their names, Kendra being Ken and Nora combined.
Yeah, and Kendrick meaning greatest champion.
Mm-hmm.
She's clearly very proud of them, and understandably so, especially their academic success.
They did really well in school.
Excelled. Lots of academic competitions, things like the Governor's Honor Program, summer programs at top universities, MIT, Duke, BU.
Wow.
Kendrick's participation in the Intel Science Fair stands out. Sounds like he was exceptionally bright. Kenny was also recognized as a star student, went to Johns Hopkins.
And supporting all that meant a lot of travel inside the U.S., didn't it?
It really did. They were going to Kentucky, Arizona, Tennessee for science fairs, visiting different states for summer camps, university tours, plus family trips, Smoky Mountains, New Orleans.
So the kids' activities actually gave the whole family this broad view of the U.S., not just one corner of it.
Yeah, it's like raising the family was its own kind of exploration,
Which brings us neatly to her retirement. She calls them enjoyable golden years.
Yes, finally free from the daily work grind and the really intensive phase of raising kids.
What's her routine like now?
Sounds pretty relaxed, deliberately so. Wakes up later, morning walk, chores, cooking, relaxing. But she's definitely not just sitting around. She's jumped into new activities.
Right, at the Golden Crane Senior Center. What sort of things?
All sorts. Chinese brush painting, calligraphy, sketching, dancing, singing. She calls herself a jack of all trades, just trying things out for fun, no pressure.
That sounds wonderful. Just learning for the joy of it.
Exactly. And she has these little practices, like singing on the WeChat app. She actually believes singing helps you live longer, less worry, stronger lungs.
Interesting theory.
There's also a monthly hiking group. And she stayed really involved with her old high school alumni group, the Wazong Association. Served as president, organized events.
But not just social stuff, fundraising too.
Yeah, for Cyclone Nargis relief in Burma, for COVID aid in Wuhan. Keeping that connection and sense of contributing back. The senior center itself sounds great. Volunteer-led classes focused on health and community for seniors.
And retirement also meant serious travel.
Oh boy, did it ever. This seems like a long-held dream she finally got to fulfill. The travel list is just incredible.
Where has she been?
Easier to ask where she hasn't. Burma, China multiple times,
Yeah.
India, Nepal on pilgrimage, Egypt, Jordan, Turkey, all over Europe, Greece, South America, Cambodia, Paris, South Africa, Morocco. She's really seen the world.
Wow. Any particular highlights she mentions?
Yeah, some moments that clearly left her in awe. Seeing the Great Pyramid in Petra. Being in Bodh Gaya under the Bodhi tree. Those monasteries in Meteor, Greece, perched way up on cliffs. It's like she's finally experiencing the world she might have glimpsed in those old boarding school movies.
That's amazing. And another major theme in her later life is connecting with her roots, right? Her father's hometown in China.
Yes, Wu Zaicheng. Her father kept in touch his whole life, sent money back from the U.S., but he never actually went back himself.
But Nora wanted to make that connection.
She felt a strong pull. It was hard to find info at first, But eventually she connected with the village secretary, a Mr. Tang Yansheng. And remarkably, he immediately remembered her father's name because of his good deeds years before.
That's incredible. Talk about legacy.
Right. So that led to her first visit in 2007, and she's been back many times since, welcomed by relatives, the whole community. She even stayed in her father's original house, which had been renovated, got a taste of village life.
And she didn't just visit, she got involved, supporting projects.
She and her siblings, yes.
Mm.
Using money from selling her father's property elsewhere in China, they funded some really tangible things in the village.
Like what?
Building a gazebo in her father's memory, fixing the road to the ancestral shrine, donating to the temple, rebuilding bridges, real contributions.
Wow, and finding her grandfather's remains, too.
Yes, locating them and building a proper shrine that's deeply significant, honoring ancestors, that whole tradition of reciprocity. She mentioned several key people in the village who helped manage all this.
She must feel immense satisfaction from that, continuing his legacy.
She reflects on that, yes. Seeing it as carrying on his good deeds, it feels like closing a circle, in a way.
So, if we pull back and look at the whole arc,
Well,
what are the big lessons or values that come through? She talks about Buddhism and Confucianism.
definitely, those are strong threads. From Buddhism, things like the 5 precepts, being a good person.
Hmm.
From Confucianism, self-improvement, respecting parents, filial piety, kindness, humility, the importance of relationships.
She shares some specific Chinese teachings, too, right? About what not to argue over.
Yeah, those are interesting. Don't get caught up arguing about reputation, profit, fame, petty things. They just disturb your peace.
Hmm.
And then things you shouldn't wait to do. Show respect and care for your parents, do good deeds, and take care of your health.
That idea about filial piety not waiting feels very powerful. Time passes faster than we think.
Exactly. She makes the point that waiting until you have lots of money might mean your parents aren't around or aren't able to enjoy it. It's the sincerity now that matters.
And doing good deeds just because.
Yeah, without obsessing about the reward.
Yeah.
She feels it keeps bad things away and brings blessings. Maybe not material ones, but good things.
And health being the foundation.
Absolutely. Health and contentment, being happy with what you have. She sees that as the key to a good life.
Did her scary experiences, the riot, car skidding, turbulence, did they shape her outlook too?
She says they really underlined how fragile life is, how quickly things can change.
Yeah.
And that seems to feed into a daily practice she has now, praying for peace in the world, especially for people in war zones, recognizing that the dangers her own family faced are still very real for others.
It really brings it back to that cyclical idea we started with, doesn't it? Her journey mirroring her father's in some ways, and then her reaching back to continue his legacy in his village. It's an incredible story of adaptation.
Truly remarkable resilience across generations and continents.
So thinking about all this, Nora Kay's life, as we see it in these sources, from insane Burma through political turmoil, immigration, building a life, raising kids in the U.S., then this burst of global travel and community work and retirement, and connecting back to China.
The big themes that just jump out are resilience, adaptability, the power of family and community ties, even across huge distances, lifelong learning.
Yeah, and how our past stays with us, how we connect to our roots in unexpected ways.
Her story really makes you think about your own life, doesn't it? How the places you've lived, the hurdles you've faced, the connections you keep, how all that weaves together to make your story the legacy you're building.
And maybe it leaves us all pondering that question, what does home truly mean?